Divorced men. What did she do when her plan B failed and your life went better than ever? Story 1. I found out about plan B the night she came home, late from yoga, smelling like cologne I don't own. 3 months later, divorce was filed, and she moved in with the guy from her office, the one who understood her better. I moved into a tiny one-bedroom, started therapy, hit the gym because I literally had nothing else to do, and took every overtime shift I could. Fast forward 2 years. I've dropped 25 kilos, got promoted to project lead, bought a townhouse, and I'm dating a woman who actually asks how my day was. My ex and I only talk through email for final paperwork. Then I run into her at the supermarket, alone. No ring. She looks tired. She spots me, does that double take, and suddenly she's all smiles. Wow, you look amazing. We should catch up. No pressure. Just coffee. Eventually, she admits, Plan B cheated on her with a new intern, drained the savings, and left her with his debts. She actually said, I think we gave up too quickly. Maybe this is our second chance? I just laughed. Not cruel, just done. I'm really happy now, I said. I don't want to go backwards. The way her smile cracked in the middle of the cereal aisle, that's when Plan B really failed. Not when he left her, but when she realized I didn't need her anymore and never would again. Story 2. When she left, she made it very clear. Mark is stable. He's everything you're not. That was Plan B. Older, higher salary, zero sense of humor. She wanted the ready-made life, not the work-in-progress husband. I was wrecked for a while. Then custody schedules forced me into routine. No more late-night gaming, no more drinking. I started freelance coding to cover child support and accidentally turned it into a full-time remote job. My apartment got nicer, my car got newer, and I actually had time for our son because I wasn't chasing her moods anymore. A year in, she calls me crying. Plan B's company downsized. He got cut. He wasn't stable anymore. She thought they'd ride it out, but then she found the texts. Multiple women. Vacations she never knew about. He told her, you knew what this was. So she tried to pivot. Suddenly, she's being extra sweet during drop-offs, bringing my favorite coffee by mistake, reminiscing about our little family, making comments like, kids do better when parents are together, you know? One night after I put our son to bed, she asked if we could talk on the porch. I made a mistake, she said. We could be the family we were meant to be. You're doing so well now. I'm proud of you. I told her calmly, everything I became happened after you left. I'm not killing that version of me just to fix your broken Plan B. She didn't scream. She just sat there, staring at the playground where our kid's bike was leaning, realizing the unstable loser she traded in had become the safe, solid life for someone else. Story 3. Her Plan B was never a person, it was a lifestyle. She wanted influencer trips, glam dinners, designer stuff. I was the boring nurse pulling 12-hour shifts. She called it settling. Then she met a businessman at a club. 2 weeks later, I need to find myself. He believes in my potential. Translation. He had a sports car and bottle service. She left, I signed the papers, and that was that. I stayed with my tiny apartment, overtime shifts, and quiet nights. I picked up travel nurse contracts, banked the higher pay, and 3 years later, I owned a small house. I started hiking, learned to cook, went from exhausted doormat to the guy my coworkers actually envied. One morning, my sister sends me a link. Plan B is all over the news. Charged with fraud and money laundering. Mugshot and everything. The influencer lifestyle my ex chased was paid for with stolen money. 2 days after that, I get a DM from a burner account. Hey, can we talk? I miss the way you made me feel safe. I ignore it. Then she emails from a community shelter address. Plan B's assets are seized. She's under investigation for not knowing where the money came from, and her friends vanished when the free tables stopped. She writes, I was stupid. You were real. I'd give anything to go back to our old life. I typed back, that old life is gone. I built a new one without you. She replied once more, so that's it? And yeah, that was it. Her Plan B failed in court. Mine, healing, saving, building a quiet, honest life is the reason she'll never get near me again. Story 4. We split because she said I had no ambition. That stung, because while I wasn't rich, I was trying. Night classes, side hustles, the whole thing. Plan B was her gym trainer. Abs, tattoos, and an Instagram full of rise and grind quotes. She moved in with him, and suddenly I was the boring ex she mocked to mutual friends. I kept my head down. No trash talk, no pettiness. I just poured everything into work and my little woodworking hobby in the garage. 3 years later, that hobby is an online store. TikTok picked up a video of a bookshelf I made. Orders exploded. I had to hire help. I bought a bigger place with an actual workshop, and for the first time I wasn't choosing between rent and groceries. Then she appeared in my DMs like a ghost. Hey stranger, saw your page, so proud of you. Remember when I always told you you were talented? She never did. Turns out Plan B got injured. Couldn't train. Started drinking and spiraled. Clients canceled, money dried up. She kept reposting my stuff with captions like, "So happy my past is doing amazing," as if we were some friendly success story. Eventually, she asked if we could collaborate. She'd model pieces for my brand, help with marketing, maybe travel with me to expos. I wrote back, "I build furniture, not redemption arcs," left her on read after that. She started posting cryptic sad quotes about men who forget where they came from. The truth is, I remember exactly where I came from. I just refused to live there again. Story 5. Our marriage died the day she told me, straight-faced, "You'll be fine alone. I need someone on my level." Her plan B was her manager. Big house, corporate ladder, the whole cliche. I moved into a cheap rental with a broken heater and mold in the bathroom, feeling like I'd been traded in like an old phone. That winter, I hit rock bottom and then bounced. I joined a startup with a friend, took equity instead of a big salary, and lived on instant noodles. Therapy, gym, no contact. I watched their lives on social media, couples trips, luxury restaurants, matching watches. It hurt, but it also kept me focused. 5 years later, the startup sold. Not billionaire money, but enough to clear my debts, buy a house, and never worry about rent again. I met someone kind, low drama, who didn't care that my first car had holes in the floor. She cared that I showed up. Then my ex requested a meeting about some old documents. We met at a cafe. She arrived late, in cheap heels, makeup barely hiding the exhaustion. I almost didn't recognize her. She told me Plan B got laid off, then downsized her too. Kicked her out of the house, new girlfriend already moved in, younger and child-free. She tried to laugh it off, but her eyes kept drifting to my watch, my clothes, the car key on the table. "So, you're doing really well now," she said. "Funny how life works. Maybe we just met at the wrong time." I shook my head. "No, we met at the right time. You just chose the wrong person." She didn't cry. She just sat there, blinking, and whispered, "I thought you'd still be waiting." That's what broke her. Not that Plan B failed, but that the life she assumed I'd ruin without her turned into the exact stability she'd tried to shortcut with someone else. Story 6. She left with this line, "You'll see I can do better." Her better was our neighbor. The divorced dad she swore was just a friend. Within a month, she was living in his house across the street from the one we used to share. I got the apartment over a mechanic's shop and a dog from the shelter because I couldn't stand the silence. Then life flipped. I got promoted at work after my boss noticed I wasn't leaving early to deal with her drama. I started running with the guys from the garage downstairs, lost weight, and somehow ended up in a new friend group that didn't know me as Emily's husband, just as me. 2 years later, I closed on a house 15 minutes away, bigger yard, better area. My new girlfriend helped me paint the kitchen. We were carrying in boxes when my phone buzzed. "Hey, can we talk? Things are complicated with Dan." Turns out Plan B had a temper. He didn't like her texting male coworkers, would disappear for days, and made her quit her job to focus on home. When his overtime dried up, so did his patience. She told me all this standing in my new driveway, staring at the fresh paint and the woman laughing inside as she unpacked dishes. "I always knew you'd make it," she said. "Maybe we could try again? For real this time?" I leaned against the car and answered, "You chose who you wanted when I had nothing. This life exists because you're not in it." She didn't scream or throw a fit. She just glanced at my girlfriend through the window, at the dog running in the yard, then walked back to the old neighbor's car she still had to borrow because Plan B kept forgetting to leave her his. Story 7. When she filed for divorce, she called it upgrading her future. Plan B was a guy from her MBA program who already had a condo, a Tesla, and parents with a lake house. I was the starter husband who paid while she studied. After she left, I stopped pouring money into her tuition and put it into myself instead. Professional certifications, networking events, awkward coffee dates with people who actually knew what they were doing. Within 3 years, I jumped companies twice and landed as a senior analyst with stock options. Meanwhile, mutual friends went quiet about her. No more, "Look how happy they are" posts. Then a LinkedIn notification popped up. Plan B had taken a break to focus on personal projects. Translation, laid off. The message came on a random Tuesday night. "I saw your promotion. I'm genuinely happy for you. Would love to catch up. No pressure." We met at a bar near the office. She showed up in a dress I'd seen before, from our wedding rehearsal dinner. That was the first red flag. Second was when she started saying "we" every time she talked about my future. "We could travel now that you're finally in a flexible role. We could invest. Build something big," I asked casually. "So, how's your upgrade?" Her jaw tightened. Plan B had wanted a stay-at-home wife. Her degree became decoration while his company downsized him into oblivion. They'd sold the Tesla, then the condo, moved into a rental. He blamed her for distracting him. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I should have believed in you instead. Maybe this was all just bad timing." I pulled my hand back. The timing was fine. Your priorities weren't. She left without finishing her drink. I watched her walk out into the rain with an umbrella that kept flipping inside out. And for the first time, I didn't feel bitter, just relieved that her plan B freed me up to become my own plan A. Story 8. Her plan B was secretly married. I warned her. Everyone warned her. She said we were emotionally done anyway, so she might as well chase what made her feel alive. He promised he'd leave his wife soon. Spoiler. He didn't, but by the time that truth landed, she'd already blown up our marriage, our finances, and our friend group. After the divorce, I moved 2 hours away, closer to my brother. I took a job at a smaller firm where nobody knew my history, spent my weekends helping my brother flip houses, and accidentally learned enough construction to start my own side business. 4 years later, I had a modest but comfortable life, paid-off truck, a fixer-upper I was almost done renovating, a girlfriend who thought, staying in and painting walls was a perfect Friday night. Then one afternoon, I get a long, emotional email from my ex. Plan B's wife had found their messages and sent everything, screenshots, photos, hotel receipts, to HR at his company. He lost his job and his marriage. My ex had banked on him divorcing clean and taking care of her. Instead, she got blocked on every platform. Now she was in a shared apartment with 3 roommates 10 years younger than her. Working retail, no savings. She ended the email with, I know I don't deserve anything from you. I just wanted you to know you were always the one who truly loved me. Part of me hopes maybe we could at least talk. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I replied, I hope you find peace and stability. It won't be with me. No insults, no rehashing. She read it. I saw the seen notification and never answered. A mutual friend later told me she cried for days. Not just because Plan B ghosted her, but because the guy she'd treated as a guaranteed safety net finally cut the last invisible thread. Story 9. She once said, half joking, if you don't get your act together, I've got options. Turned out she meant it. Her plan B was a younger coworker who worshipped her, always bringing coffee and complimenting her outfits. She liked the ego boost. I didn't take it seriously until I found their messages. She left 2 weeks later, moved into an apartment closer to the city, closer to him. I stayed in our old place with the mismatched furniture and the too big couch, picked up freelance gigs to keep it. Being alone sucked. Until it didn't. With no one criticizing my boring hobbies, I leaned into them. Photography, hiking, learning to cook. I posted sunset shots online, got a tiny following, then paid gigs. One day, I shot a wedding at a nice venue. Guess who was there? Serving drinks as part of the catering staff. Plan B. I watched him duck behind a pillar when he saw me, like I was the problem. Later that night, I heard someone whisper my name. She stood there in black catering uniform, hair pinned back, eyes tired. So you really turned your little camera obsession into a job, she said, trying to smile. I always knew you could, you know? No, she hadn't. Then came the confession. The younger co-worker had quit their company, pursued music, and dragged her into debt, helping him invest in his dream. He never paid her back. When she pushed, he vanished. She lost her apartment, her job, her options. You look happy, she said, glancing at my gear, at the bride laughing in the distance. Do you ever think about us? Only when I'm grateful, I answered. For what? For learning that someone who sees you as Plan A doesn't joke about having backups. She went quiet. Later, as I photographed the couple's first dance, I caught her in the background of a shot, watching them with this raw, hollow look. My life had gone better than ever. Hers had finally hit the moment where every option she'd bragged about turned out to be a dead end. Story 10. We didn't have kids, but we did have shared friends, so when she left for Plan B, a divorced dad from her church group, I became the villain of her story. He didn't appreciate me. He never stepped up. I had to move on. I stayed silent and took the hits. I also took a new job offer in another city and vanished from the narrative. My salary doubled. I found a therapist who specialized in post-infidelity trauma. I joined a climbing gym, made new friends, and for the first time in years, my evenings weren't spent calming down someone else's emotional storms. 3 years later, I came back to town for a mutual friend's baby shower. I walked in with a small gift and zero expectations. People actually did double takes. I'd lost weight, stopped dressing like a background character, and apparently my confidence showed. My ex arrived late, alone, carrying a gift bag with the tag still on. She froze when she saw me. Throughout the party, she kept orbiting me, finally cornering me in the kitchen while I grabbed water. So, you look different, she said. We made polite small talk until she cracked. Plan B had insisted she quit her job to be a stay-at-home stepmom. When his custody was reduced after a messy court fight, he decided he didn't need a full-time partner anymore. He downgraded apartments, downgraded her, and eventually ditched her for someone less complicated. I thought, she struggled, I thought if everything fell apart, we'd at least still be us, that you'd still love me. I told her the truth. The version of me that loved you died the day you walked out. The version that's alive now owes you nothing. She didn't argue, didn't yell. She just nodded, eyes glassy, and said, "Then I really have nothing left of what I gambled with." That was it. Her plan B failing didn't break her nearly as much as realizing her plan A had built a better life and would never let her back inside it. Story 11. When she left, it wasn't just for another guy. It was for another country. Her plan B was some British engineer she met on a work trip. "He's offering me a whole new life," she said, while packing our plates into my boxes. "You'll land on your feet. You always do." I stayed in our small city. I took the promotion I'd been scared of, moved into a slightly bigger apartment, and forced myself to learn how to cook something that wasn't frozen. Work trips started coming my way instead of hers. I made new friends. I wasn't Jake and Lena anymore. I was just Jake. Meanwhile, her Instagram became a travel brochure. London skylines, brunch pics, carefully angled selfies with just his shoulder in frame. For a while, it stung. Then I got busy. I met someone at my gym, we started dating, and my life quietly clicked into place. Better job, better health, peace. 2 years later, I had a layover at Heathrow. I was waiting for my connecting flight when I heard my name. She was behind me in line at a coffee stand, dragging 2 overstuffed suitcases, wearing the same winter coat she'd had when she left. We made awkward small talk. Then she cracked. The visa plan fell apart when Plan B's company moved him to another branch, and he wasn't ready to marry her. No marriage, no visa. When she pushed, he chose the job. Then, she lost hers too. "I thought you'd still be, I don't know, figuring things out," she admitted. "But you look good, happy. That girl on your socials, is she serious?" "Yeah," I said. "Very." Her eyes filled up in the middle of the airport. I gave up everything for him, and he just moved on. I thought worst case, I'd still have you to talk to. I picked up my backpack when they called my boarding group. "You did have me," I said. "Plan B is what you chose instead." The look on her face as I walked toward a flight that had nothing to do with her, that was the moment Plan B really failed. Story 12. My ex always had a thing for older rich guys. She swore it was emotional maturity, but it always seemed to involve yachts and expensive wine. Her plan B was a silver-haired real estate developer who called her darling and wore watches that cost more than my car. She left with this line: "You deserve someone who's okay with a simple life." I'm not. So I leaned into simple. I moved into a small duplex, started a side business detailing cars on weekends, and took every dull overtime project at work. Over 3 years, simple turned into comfortable. I paid off debt, saved a down payment, and bought myself a modest house. Met a nurse at a friend's game night, fell stupidly in love with her, and we built something solid, boring, and beautiful together. Then my ex's sister called. "She's in the hospital. You should probably know." Turned out Plan B had a heart attack. He survived but came out of surgery with a new will and a new fiancée, a woman closer to his age, with her own money. My ex had banked on being provided for. Instead, she got quietly pushed out of his life the minute he saw how fragile it all was. No marriage, no security, just a generous severance, and a polite suggestion to focus on her own career. When I visited, mostly for her sister's sake, my wife came with me. My ex's room went silent when she saw us. I had a good coat, a new ring, and zero desperation in my voice. "You look settled," she said. "I always knew you'd be a good husband. I just didn't think it would be for someone else first." I shrugged. "You just miscalculated which life was actually secure." Later, her sister texted me that my ex broke down after we left, saying, "I gambled on the one man who saw me as replaceable and walked away from the one who didn't." Plan B's money didn't fail first. Her math did. Story 13. We used to play in a tiny cover band together. Me on guitar, her singing. It was our thing. The fight started when she met Plan B, a producer who promised to take her solo and kept telling her I was holding her back. She left both the band and the marriage in one move, signed some sketchy management contract, and moved into his cramped studio apartment that she insisted on calling The Loft. Online, she became a persona. Breathy covers, provocative photos, captions about cutting toxic people out to chase your dreams. I was the toxic one, apparently. Alone without her drama, I focused on my day job in IT. I got certifications, moved to a better company, bought a small condo, and started posting low-effort guitar tutorials just for fun. Somehow, those tutorials blew up more than her music ever did. Within a year, I was making decent side money off sponsorships. Then the implosion. Her producer got exposed on Twitter for harassing other artists and stealing their songs. Screenshots, receipts, the whole internet dogpile. Every project tied to him got radioactive. She tried to pivot, posting tearful videos about being taken advantage of, but followers left faster than they'd arrived. She called me drunk one night. "I should have stuck with you," she slurred. "We had something real. People loved us." "You didn't want real," I reminded her. "You wanted famous." A year later, our paths crossed at a local festival I was hired to play. I was on the small stage, sure, but paid, booked, respected. She was there working a merch table for a younger singer. During a break, she came over and said quietly, "I thought leaving you would be my origin story. Instead, it was just the end of the only version of me people actually like. There's a universe where we made it big together. In this one, my boring stability beat her glamorous plan B, and she has to watch from the crowd. Story 14. Kids were always a sore spot. I wanted them. She wasn't sure. Then she met Plan B, a co-worker with 2 little girls from his first marriage. Instant family, no pregnancy, no sleepless nights with newborns. It's perfect, she told me during the divorce. I get to be a mom without starting from zero. I stepped back. Instead of fighting it, I agreed to a quick, clean split. I threw myself into work, but more into myself. Therapy, men's group, learning how not to be the guy who clings to someone begging to leave. 3 years later, I remarried. My new wife has a son from her previous relationship, and we actually did the hard stuff. Therapy, boundaries, blending slowly. One afternoon at the park, my stepson was learning to ride a bike. I was jogging behind him, yelling, "You've got it, bud," when I heard my name. My ex was there with Plan B's daughters. The girls clung to their phones, barely glancing at her. We made awkward small talk. Then, while the kids ran off, she spilled, "The instant family was a war zone. The girls never accepted her. Their mom hates her. And Plan B treats her like a live-in nanny with benefits. Anytime she complains, he threatens to go for full custody and cut her out completely." She watched me high-five my stepson when he finally wobbled down the path alone. "You're really good with him," she said quietly. "He looks at you like you hung the moon." I shrugged. "We did the work. It's not magic." She swallowed hard. "Do you ever think that could have been us? With kids, I mean. If you hadn't chosen the shortcut," I finished. She didn't answer. Later, as she left, I overheard one of the girls snap at her, "You're not my mom." She flinched like she'd been slapped. Plan B gave her the title she thought she wanted, stepmom, without any of the respect, love, or partnership. Meanwhile, my second choice life became exactly the family she tried to skip the hard work to get. Story 15. Her Plan B wasn't one guy, it was a type. She started mainlining those hypergamy TikToks, convinced she was meant for high-value men only. I was the practice boyfriend, according to one drunk fight. So when a finance bro with a blue-check Instagram slid into her DMs, she was gone in a month. She told me, "You'll thank me one day. You're not built for the life I want." I grieved like someone died, then slowly rebuilt, got serious about my own finances, learned to invest, stopped doom scrolling, and started reading actual books. I launched a small e-commerce store, selling custom phone cases I designed at night. It took off. 3 years later, I had quit my 9-to-5, hired 2 employees, and was running everything from a bright little office with plants and a coffee machine. Her high-value Plan B, meanwhile, turned out to be high-risk, insider trading investigation, frozen accounts. His social media disappeared overnight. With no prenup and no ring, she wasn't a wife, just an accessory, and easily discarded. I found out through a barrage of messages. "Hey stranger, long time, how are you? We should catch up. I miss your sense of humor. You were always the only man who really understood me." I ignored them. Then she upped the ante, publicly commenting under my business posts, "So proud of you. I always knew you'd be huge," to imply we were still friendly. My current girlfriend saw it and just raised an eyebrow. Finally, she showed up at my office, just to talk. She looked around at the branded boxes, the team photos on the wall, the framed article from a local magazine that had featured my story. "You're really doing it," she said. "This is exactly the lifestyle I always dreamed of. Travel, freedom, money." She hesitated. "I was wrong about you." "You weren't wrong," I corrected. "You just measured value by the wrong things." She tried one last time. "We could be that power couple now." I shook my head. Power couples don't start with one person treating the other as a warm-up. She left, and later I saw she'd posted some long rant about men who level up and forget who believed in them first. The comments were full of strangers hyping her up. None of them knew the truth. Her Plan B didn't just fail. It accidentally funded the motivation that made my life better than she ever thought I deserved. Story 16. When she left, she made it cruel on purpose. Honestly, I've been emotionally checked out for a year. Liam just made me realize it. Liam was my best friend, or so I thought. Plan B had been sitting at my table every Sunday, eating my food, laughing at my jokes, then taking my wife out for venting walks. Once the dust settled, I went nuclear in one way only. I cut them both off. No screaming, no revenge, just block numbers and a new gym membership. I focused on work, ended up leading a big project, and 3 promotions later, I was managing the department. I bought a house with an actual garden, started dating a woman from HR who'd watched the whole mess and quietly rooted for me. 2 years later, my phone lit up with screenshots. My ex was posting TikToks about escaping a narcissist husband and how I'd abused her, clearly fishing for sympathy now that Plan B had imploded. He'd cheated, of course, gotten another woman pregnant, and moved in with her without warning. My ex was stuck in a tiny rental, jobless, because she'd left her role to support his dreams. I ignored the smear campaign until she tagged my work in one of her rants. That's when HR called me in and played me the video. I just sighed and slid a folder across the table. Therapy records, her affair timeline, Liam's messages that I'd quietly backed up before wiping the old phone. HR shut it down fast and sent her a legal notice. That night, she called from a new number, sobbing. "You ruined my last chance at a platform. Why are you doing this?" I said. "You tried to wreck the one thing I built after you. My career. You already took my marriage, my friend group, my savings. You don't get this too," she whispered. "I thought you'd still love me enough to let it go." Plan B destroyed her reputation. My silence used to protect her. Now it's the thing she misses most. Story 17. Her plan B was our boss. I'm not kidding. She'd stay late at the office, come home with that smug glow and say things like, "Some people actually believe in my potential." When she finally dropped the divorce bomb, she added, "At least with him, I know where I'm going in 5 years." Cool. So I handed in my resignation. HR was shocked, but a rival company had been sniffing around for months. I took their offer, got a signing bonus, and walked out without burning a single bridge. 6 months later, my new firm poached 3 major clients from my old one. Guess who'd manage those accounts? Our boss. The implosion came fast. Internal investigation, whispers about favoritism, rumors of misused funds. My ex had hitched her entire future to a man whose job was now hanging by a thread. When he got quietly retired, the company let her go too. Conflict of interest. She emailed me from her personal account. "You won. Happy now?" By then, my plan A life was ridiculous compared to what we'd had together. I was traveling for work, saving for a house, dating a woman who didn't flirt her way into promotions. My ex, meanwhile, was doing temp jobs and posting bitter quotes about men in power abusing women. We ran into each other at a networking event. She wasn't supposed to be there. She'd tagged along with a friend. When I took the stage to present our new partnership, I saw her shrink in her chair. Afterward, she cornered me near the coat rack. "I never thought you'd be the one up there," she said quietly. "He promised me I'd be his right hand. I gambled everything." "You didn't gamble," I corrected. "You cheated on your husband and on your own career." She opened her mouth to argue, then shut it again. Because standing there, in my suit with my badge and my new team waiting for me, I wasn't the man she'd tossed aside. I was proof that her shortcut cost her the only person who ever actually wanted to build something with her, not use her. Story 18. Her plan B wasn't someone we knew. It was a guy from a crypto Discord server. I thought it was harmless at first, just late-night chats about investments. Then I read the messages. "If you were mine, you'd never have to worry about money again. I'd fly you out here tomorrow." 3 months later, my wife was packing her bags to finally live, not just survive. She took half our savings, sold her car, and flew to another state to meet this online soulmate. I signed the papers over Zoom, staring at the empty couch behind me. Left alone, I did the most boring thing possible. I got a second job and a budget spreadsheet. I clawed my way out of the financial crater she'd left and, weirdly, found peace in the routine. I moved into a small condo closer to work, made friends at a local board game night, and started dating a woman who thought joint checking account wasn't a punchline. About a year later, my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. It was her mother, crying. "Have you heard from her? She's in trouble." Turns out Plan B was a professional scammer. The apartment she moved into was an Airbnb he'd rented with money from other women. The investments were fake. When she ran out of funds, he blocked her on everything and disappeared. She was stuck in a city she didn't know, maxed out cards, no job. Eventually, she got back to our state and, of course, reached out. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I hoped maybe we could talk. You're the only person who ever took care of me." I wrote back, "I'm not your emergency exit. I'm the person you set on fire on the way to your freedom. I'm genuinely glad you're safe. That's where my responsibility ends." She left me on red. Later, mutual friends said she couldn't stop saying, "He really moved on. He really doesn't want me back." Her plan B didn't just fail financially. It forced her to see that the man she'd treated as a backup had finally learned how not to rescue her. Story 19. We always fought about kids. I wanted them. She was unsure, but loved the idea of being a cool stepmom with none of the pregnancy, sleepless nights, or stretch marks. Enter Plan B. A divorced guy from her spin class with a teenage son and a big house. "This is the family I was meant for," she told me, while handing me divorce papers. I let her go. I froze my sperm. Yeah, seriously. And moved on. Focused on lifting, therapy, and my career. 2 years later, I met someone who actually wanted the same things. We married fast, by everyone's standards, and after some struggles, we got pregnant through IVF. Meanwhile, I heard little fragments about my ex from mutuals. Plan B's son hated her. The ex-wife despised her. Holidays were tense warfare. She'd post curated photos of family dinners, where everyone's eyes looked dead. The day everything collided, I was in the hospital holding my newborn daughter. My phone buzzed with an unknown text. "I heard you had a baby. Congratulations." It was her. Then another message. "We've been trying for years. Nothing works. He's talking about being too old to start over." I thought, I don't know, that I could always come back if it didn't work out. I stared at my daughter's tiny fist wrapped around my finger while typing, "There is no coming back. You didn't put life on pause. You walked out of it." She unloaded then. That Plan B's son refused to call her anything but her first name. That he'd told her flat out, "You're not my mom." That Plan B blamed her for the tension, but wouldn't consider therapy. Finally, she wrote, "When I left, I thought I was skipping the hard part and walking into a ready-made family. Now you have everything I thought I'd shortcut my way into." I didn't answer. I just put my phone away. My wife later asked who it was. I told her, "Someone who taught me how lucky I am to be here." Somewhere, my ex is staring at carefully filtered photos of a life she could have had if she'd stayed and done the work, and realizing Plan B stole years she can't get back. Story 20. Her Plan B was freedom. At least that's what she called it. No man, no kids, no ball and chain mortgage, like the one we were saving for. She divorced me, moved into a downtown loft with 2 influencer roommates, and started posting about soft life and feminine energy while I ate leftovers alone at the kitchen table we'd built together. I tightened my belt, kept the apartment, and turned what we'd called our someday business into my actual Plan A. We'd always talked about a small cafe bookstore. She'd insisted it was unrealistic. A year after she left, I signed a lease on a tiny space, painted the walls myself, and opened Chapter 1 with 3 shelves of used books and a borrowed espresso machine. It didn't blow up overnight, but the neighborhood loved it. A local blogger did a feature. Business crept up. I hired 2 baristas, added pastries, hosted open mics. By year 3, I had lines on weekends and a landlord hinting at expansion. Then she walked in. No warning. She looked older. Not in a mean way, just tired. The soft life had turned into gig work, unstable roommates, and a constant scramble for content that actually paid. Her friends had drifted into relationships, moved out, moved on. She ordered a latte, then waited until the line thinned before saying, "So, you really did it. This place?" I smiled. "Yeah, guess I was built for a mortgage after all." She laughed without humor. "I thought by now you'd be begging me to come back, that you'd still be stuck in the same routine while I lived bigger. But you," she gestured around, "you actually built the dream." I shrugged. "You helped," I said. "Leaving gave me the push." Her eyes filled. "Do you ever think there's a version of this where my laptop is on that counter too?" "Sure," I said, "but that version doesn't exist. You cashed out before the story got good." She sat there for a long time, nursing her drink, watching couples browse shelves and students type on laptops. Then she left, posting a vague story later about men who thrive after you pour into them. She'll never admit the truth online. Plan B, the fantasy of endless options and no roots, didn't just fail. It handed me the quiet, solid, better-than-ever life she thought she was too good for. Story 21. She used to joke, "If we ever split, at least I know I'll never be alone." I thought she meant her friends. She meant Plan B, her platonic church friend who always sat a little too close at potlucks. She left me for him right after our 10th anniversary, told everyone I'd fallen away spiritually, and she needed a man who would lead her. They rushed into some Pinterest wedding 3 months later. I stayed quiet, kept paying my half of the debt she piled up, and rebuilt. Without her chaos and constant guilt trips, I actually had time to live. I started a small landscaping business on the side, then quit my 9-to-5 when it made more than my salary. I bought a truck, then a small house, met a woman who believed in God and therapy, and we built something steady. Then one of our old church friends sent me screenshots. Plan B had been caught sexting 3 different women from their Bible study. The pastor confronted him, the group imploded, and my ex was suddenly the woman who stole someone's husband only to get cheated on too. She showed up at my house one afternoon while I was loading tools. My wife was inside with our toddler, baking cookies. My ex had raccoon eyes and a crumpled tissue in her hand. "He says it's my fault," she whispered, "that I broke his covenant first, so he never trusted me." "And you believed him?" I asked. "I believed he'd at least be better than you," she snapped, then immediately winced. Her eyes swept over my truck, the toys in the yard, the flowers my wife planted. "You weren't supposed to end up happier than both of us." I locked the truck. "You left for a man who cheated on his wife with you. He just kept being who he already was. I just kept becoming who you said I'd never be." She started sobbing, right there on the sidewalk, saying, "I thought God would punish you for the divorce, not me. But the only punishment I'm living with is a life so peaceful, it makes her version of faith look like the bad bet it always was." Story 22. My ex was obsessed with status, labels, restaurants, which schools other people's kids went to. Even though we didn't have any yet, she compared everything we had to everyone else's. So when her company's regional manager started flirting, that was it. Plan B drove a nicer car, wore nicer suits, had a nicer LinkedIn. She left me with parting words. You'll understand when you grow up. I grew up by getting boring. I stayed at my mid-range job, but asked for more responsibility instead of complaining. I took a coding boot camp at night, built internal tools, and ended up spearheading a project that saved the company a ton of money. Promotion, then another. No flash, just quiet competence. Meanwhile, I heard rumors about her. Office drama. The regional manager's divorce got nasty. HR investigated. She swore they were soulmates. He swore she was a mistake. When it all came out, the board moved him to a different region and restructured her role right out of existence. Our paths crossed at a conference 2 years later. I was a speaker. She was working the registration desk for a temp agency. When she scanned my badge and saw my title, her hands actually shook. Director? She whispered. You? Apparently I grew up, I said. She insisted on grabbing coffee at lunch. There, she tried to spin it. How she'd been blacklisted because she dared to love the wrong man. How unfair it all was. Then she cut to the chase. I've made mistakes, she said, but we were good once. We knew each other before all this. Don't you ever wonder what it would be like now that you're finally at my level? I looked her dead in the eye. You weren't waiting for me at the bottom. You were always waiting for someone better at the top. I just stopped auditioning. She reached for my hand, but I was already standing. Later that night, she watched from the doorway as people lined up to talk to me after my talk. For once, the man she'd traded in was the one everyone else considered the upgrade. Story 23. Her plan B was my younger cousin. Yeah, family. He was the fun one. Tattoos, DJ gigs, always posting trips with the boys. She said I'd become too serious, paying bills and fixing leaky sinks. When I found the messages, I didn't explode. I just quietly told her to leave and told my cousin to never speak to me again. They moved into a studio together and turned into that cringy couple posting joint TikToks about choosing happiness over tradition. My family was split down the middle. I moved to another city, cut contact, and went all in on my career. Picked up night shifts, extra certs, everything. Within 4 years, I was head nurse on my floor, making more than I ever thought I would. I bought a townhouse, got a dog, and eventually met a woman through a running group who actually liked my serious side. Then my uncle called. You might want to come home, he said. It's about them. Plan B had totaled his car driving drunk. No one died, but he lost his license and his DJ side hustle. My ex was now the only one who could work, except she'd never finished school, and her retail job barely covered rent. They ended up back at my aunt's, sleeping in the basement they'd mocked as boomer living. I visited for a family barbecue. She came out to the backyard like a ghost. Thinner, eyes dull. My cousin avoided eye contact, flipping burgers like his life depended on it. You look good, she said. City life treating you that well? Hard work is, I answered. My girlfriend came over with the dog, kissed my cheek, and started chatting with my cousins. My ex watched every second of it. Later, when we were briefly alone, she whispered, Do you hate me? No, I said. I just don't trust you with the life I built after you broke the first one. She wiped her eyes fast before going back inside. That night, my uncle texted me that she'd admitted she thought, worst case scenario, I'd always be the one person who'd never fully shut the door. Turns out my boundary hurt more than Plan B's crash ever could. Story 24. We didn't divorce because of cheating. Not technically. We divorced because she lined up Plan B emotionally for so long that our marriage became an afterthought. He was her work husband, the guy she vented to about my flaws, the one who finally got her. When she moved out, she said, I just can't keep lowering myself to your level. That line carved me up. I believed her. For a while, I thought I was the dead weight. So I started lifting it. Therapy, career coaching, saving instead of spending. I realized a lot of the chaos I'd blamed on life was actually her impulsive decisions. New cars, spontaneous trips, maxed out cards. Without that, my finances stabilized fast. 2 years later, I bought a small house. 3 years later, I was managing a team at work. 4 years later, I remarried a woman who thought a wild night was trying a new recipe. Then my old coworker DM'd me. Bro, have you seen Facebook? Plan B had dumped my ex publicly. Long rant about women who can't manage money and how he'd rescued her only to watch her bleed him dry. He listed debts, hinted at her shopping addiction, and made himself look like the hero. It went semi-viral in our small town. People screenshotted, commented, dissected. She texted me from a new number. You of all people know I'm not that bad. Please say something. I'm being destroyed. I stared at the message for a long time. It would have taken one post from me. She's not a monster. We both made mistakes to soften the blow. Instead, I wrote, I spent years protecting your image at the cost of my sanity. I'm not doing it again. Block him. Lawyer up. Get off social media and rebuild. The way I had to, she replied once. I always thought you'd come rushing in if it got really bad. I guess that was my last illusion. Watching from my quiet living room, kid toy on the floor, my wife humming in the kitchen, I realized her plan B hadn't just failed. It had exposed the fact that the man she'd dismissed as below her level was the only one who never weaponized her worst parts against her, and he was gone. Story 25. Her plan B was time. She genuinely believed that because she was pretty and charming, she could always come back later. When she left, she said, "We're still young. If it's meant to be, we'll find our way back. For now, I need more." More was a string of short-term boyfriends, trips, parties, self-discovery. I watched from a distance, muted her stories, and focused on surviving the silence of our old apartment. Then I realized silence wasn't so bad. No more midnight screaming matches. No more walking on eggshells because she was bored. I went back to school part-time, finished the degree I'd put on hold to support her dreams, and moved into a new field. The pay was better, the hours saner, the colleagues less dramatic. I met someone in my program who saw me as a partner, not a prop in her highlight reel. We got married quietly, just family, no theatrics. 10 years after the divorce, my ex showed up in my inbox. "Hey stranger," she wrote. "Crazy how fast time flies. I saw your LinkedIn. You look successful. Are you happy?" I answered honestly, "Yeah, I am." That cracked something open. She unloaded. The guys who never stayed, the one who got her pregnant and disappeared, the abortion she never told anyone about, the job she lost, the friends who slowly drifted into families while she kept chasing one more wild summer. Finally, she wrote, "I always thought worst case you'd still be there. That we'd have this epic reunion in our 30s when we were finally ready. I pictured knocking on your door, you smiling, saying, 'Took you long enough. Is that stupid?'" I looked over at my actual life. My wife reading on the couch, our kid asleep down the hall, the mortgage statement on the table, and typed, "It's not stupid. It's just not real. You walked away from the version of me that would have waited. The version that's left moved on." She responded, "So I really ran out of time." That's what Plan B was for her. A belief that the universe would bend around her choices. It didn't. It bent around mine, the boring, steady ones, and built a life she only gets to see in photos now. Story 26. When she left, she laughed at my little dream of buying a duplex one day. "I'm not built to clip coupons in some suburban shoebox," she said, already texting Plan B, our landlord. He owned 3 buildings, drove a Mercedes, and loved to tell everyone how financially literate he was. 6 months after she moved into his penthouse, I signed the divorce papers and moved into a basement studio. I worked 2 jobs, lived on rice and eggs, and watched every real estate video I could find. 3 years later, I closed on my first small duplex, then a triplex, then a shabby 4-unit. I lived in 1 unit, rented the rest, did my own repairs. No vacations, no drama, just grind. One day, my property manager calls, "Got a new application. You might want to look at this one yourself." It was her. Different hair, same name, listed her current landlord as Plan B. I called him out of curiosity. He ranted for 10 minutes. She'd stopped paying on time, maxed his patience, blew holes in his walls with her art projects, brought chaos to his building. He was evicting her as soon as legally possible. I approved her application. Professionally, she had income, references, no evictions yet. She moved into one of my cheaper units without realizing it was mine. The first time she saw me fixing a railing in the hallway, she went white. "You own this place?" "And a few others," I said, wiping my hands. She tried to spin it. "See? I always knew you'd make it. Maybe this is fate. We bump into each other. You save me from another horrible landlord." I cut her off. "I'm not saving you. I'm your landlord. You pay rent on the 1st. You follow the rules. That's it." Weeks later, she forgot to pay on time and texted some flirty apology. I replied with a late fee notice. She sent a voice message, crying about how cold I'd become and how Plan B used her then threw her away. What did she do when Plan B failed and saw my life went better than ever? She had to drop the seduction, sign for registered letters, and stand in front of the man she traded in, now the one who could legally put her out on the street, and realize the power dynamic had done a full 180.